Hi, welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about how to protect yourself from negative energy. If you're new, welcome. And if you're returning, then welcome back. I haven't made a video here in a long time, and I am glad to be back. I had a little bit of a hibernation period, and I've been thinking about what direction I want this channel to go and where I'm being guided to go with it. There's going to be some changes, but come in. Those of you who are new, my name's Kat. This is Fate and Flame, and I'm sharing about what I know about energetic protection today. And whether you're a beginner or you're more advanced, I'm going to be sharing some things that I haven't really seen talked about enough or at all in terms of energetic protection. So there should be something here for everyone. So the first thing that I kind of want to define when I'm talking about energetic protection, we're going to be talking how to protect our energy today, our own energy, and become sovereign in our energy. And what that boils down to is taking accountability for the energy that is ours, our emotions, our thoughts, our actions, and repercussions of said actions in our own energy field, like the aura that is around us. So when we're accountable for our energy, then that's the first step to being sovereign in our energy. So when it comes to protecting our energy from outside interference or outside influence, it basically boils down to what your energetic boundaries are like and how you are maintaining those boundaries, how you are healing them, how you are taking care of your energetic hygiene, so to speak, your cleansing and your chakra balancing if you do that. And the reason I mention chakras is because we're going to be getting into the aura, and the aura and the chakras are both connected. They're both different energetic systems that are yours. So that being said, the first thing that we're going to be talking about is different levels of energetic protection. The first thing that I'm going to be going into is basic aura protection. And as you may know, like your aura is basically an energetic bubble that is around you. It extends all around and behind and underneath your feet a little bit and then over the top of your head. That's your aura. So the aura is basically, it can naturally cleanse itself, like certain activities can cleanse your aura and remove different energies that may have like stuck to the sides of your aura, or that may be even like taking energy from your aura. And I'm not necessarily talking about energetic attack, but it could be something like that too. So if, for instance, taking a shower or doing that cleansing shower or cleansing bath ritual that I posted about a while ago, that's something that will clean the aura. Being outside in nature, especially walking around barefoot in the dirt, that's something that naturally cleanses the aura. Really anything, just taking a regular shower would cleanse your aura. So there's different things that sort of maintain the aura's own natural biome, I guess you could say. However, in times of energetic stress and or tumultuous events around us, or interacting with people who are toxic, or if we ourselves are going through something and maybe we're being toxic, which, you know, that happens, we're here to take accountability, right? So going through that means that it can make the auric field a little bit more vulnerable to our own energy and also the energy outside of us as well. So I'm basically going to be talking more about external energy, because if we have a boundary between the external and then us, then it's way easier to maintain our own energetic harmony and for the aura to be happy and for us to then feel like we're sovereign and not feel like we're picking up stuff from outside and like we're influenced very heavily by things going on around us. I mean, It's not like you will stop being affected by things going on around you, but it will be less so. There will be a little bit more awareness because there's a separation between what's yours and what isn't, more or less. So basic aura protection, what I want to share about is an energy throwing technique that my teacher and I also have taught to students in Reiki class. So what we do is everybody picks a partner, and everyone turns around, or one person turns around, and then the other person will purposefully throw like something energetically nasty at the other one. And before we do this, like, everybody takes down, their energetic shields. If they're wearing like protective jewelry, take it off. And it's not like we're throwing everything that, nasty that we can at the other person, but it's enough to just see what the effect will be. Okay. So when I was doing this to someone, I really didn't want to do it, y'all, but it was for the class. It was part of our training. So, I basically just kind of got a little mad and just did a little, fuck you. Okay. And intended that towards that person who's very sweet, a very, very nice lady who's very sweet. Didn't want to do it, like I said. Okay, so it basically gave her neck pain. Okay, she started to get like pain in the back of her neck and in her head. Now, come to find out, years earlier, she had neck surgery, and so she's already vulnerable there physically. And the point that I'm trying to get across is that energy is going to hit where you are vulnerable in your body, whether it is an energetic vulnerability, like if, for instance, if you have something going on in your auric field, like I've seen when I'm doing Reiki with people, I've seen like different things get stuck into the aura. They look kind of like thorns or swords or that kind of thing. Like foreign objects in the auric field is what I see intuitively when I do Reiki on people sometimes. So if it's an energetic vulnerability like that, then wherever that intrusion is in the auric field, it would probably just get pushed in a little bit more, depending on where the external energy is being directed or where it ends up hitting. Energy is going to take the path of least resistance. So wherever that energy goes, you're probably going to feel it where you're most vulnerable. So if you're feeling something crop up, and you know that you have a vulnerability there, and it's not something that normally comes up, or it's something that you've treated and managed before, if it keeps happening, then it may have to do with how you are interacting with external energy. It might have to do with needing more auric protection around you, needing more boundaries around you. Now, I say that, but I also want to clarify, I'm not a doctor or medical practitioner. So this is if you've already ruled out going to the doctor and they say everything is fine and you think that it might be something energetic, then follow your intuition there, but always get checked out physically by a professional first. So disclaimer out of the way, I have to say it. So that energy experiment, basically, if you have something that is like a basic, like if you're just going around with your basic aura, you don't have shields up, you don't have protection around you, you're just kind of like free floating through the world, right? Sitting in traffic where people are giving everyone the finger, going to the grocery store where people are in a bad mood from being at work all day and the place is crowded, whatever the case may be, we're interacting with people like on a daily basis, and in at least where I'm at, there's a lot of hostility around anyways. So people are a little bit easier to anger, to trigger, that kind of thing. And so it just kind of creates an environment where people are more reactive in a negative way. So if you're feeling some of that, or you've been feeling kind of bogged down by that, then it could just be the environment. So now more than ever, if you're taking care of your energy, keeping some boundaries up, it's going to help you dealing with any kind of negative energy that is outside of you. And everybody else can, hopefully they see this video and they can deal with theirs. But, if not, then you can do, you can do what you can do, right? So, let me see what else I have in my notes here. I'm going to keep talking about stuff. All right, so I went a little bit into when I do Reiki on people and I see that there are what look like to me in my, I intuitively see things when I do Reiki for people, like I perceive energy, I get visions, that kind of thing. So when I'm doing that and I see that there's some kind of intrusion stuck in the auric field, I can also see these types of intrusions in somebody's chakra system, but that's sort of that's a whole other video. That's sort of deeper energetic wounding, and it can go as deep as soul wounding, but it's not happening from, you cutting someone off in traffic and they give you the finger or whatever. It's not that. It goes a lot more deep than that. So that's a whole other video. When I see these intrusions in the aura, if it happens over and over again and there isn't any kind of repair to the aura and there isn't shielding, or at least effective enough shielding happening in the aura, then basically those things can go in a little bit deeper, and they can cause some emotional problems, some energetic problems. But when it comes to intrusions in the aura and things like that, the first thing usually is that people start to feel overwhelmed and like their energy, their space is being encroached upon in some way, because there's stuff in their aura that doesn't belong to them. So what that can eventually lead to, if it keeps happening, is something that is called, or that I call, like a leaky aura, which is when energy starts to kind of seep out of the aura. Now that takes time. And it's sort of like over a long period of time, these energetic intrusions kind of have to build up. And normally there is some trauma that has happened along the way as well, and these things can compound and cause the aura to seep out energy, more or less. So if you have the intuitive feeling that something like that is going on with you, there are things that you can do on your own, but I would actually highly recommend that you get a Reiki session with someone who is familiar with that, which I am, or you can ask me for a referral if you are looking to see someone in person, and just leave me a comment below. But I will link my Reiki service down below as well if you think that that's going on with you, because that sort of energetic repair is a little bit more intricate than I want to get into with this video. So how do you do basic aura protection now that you know what can happen and how tumultuous it can be just having like a bare aura out there in the world, right? So one of the things that you can do is have a daily spiritual maintenance, energetic maintenance routine. And I would highly recommend that you do that anyway. And that can be super simple. You can use that bath or shower cleansing technique that I talked about. You can also spray yourself with some cleansing spray, Florida water, that kind of thing. I like to do it before I go out and then when I come home, because doing that there's usually cleansing and protective herbs. Like if an herb is cleansing, then it's usually a little bit protective as well. So I will do a little bit of energetic protection before I leave my home, and then some cleansing with the same Florida water when I get back. Let me see if I have it. Oh, I do. Oh, here we go. All right, so this is mine. It does come with a lid, but I did not bring the lid upstairs. I use this all the time. I also keep some in my car because, people in traffic are upset sometimes, and it just it helps keep the overall energy feeling clear, feeling good, feeling protected. There is Reiki in that Florida water, which I love the energy of Reiki. It's very, very soothing, and who doesn't want to feel nice and calm when they're in the car, right? So I would recommend doing something like that, where you build it into your daily routine. That way you're at least doing a little something and not nothing, right? If it's quick, that's totally okay because it's something. Another thing that you can do is specifically work to create an energetic barrier on your aura. I did mention shielding before, and what I'm talking about right now is sort of, I would call it more of an energetic barrier than I would a shield. A shield is something a little bit stronger, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But what I'm talking about now is an auric boundary. So it's essentially a boundary, a barrier between your energy and the outside world. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. First, I would recommend that you do a little bit of cleansing first. That way you've got kind of a clean slate in your energy field. And then one of the things that you can do is there's different techniques. There's visualization and intention, where you are visualizing that you have an energetic barrier around you. You can use color, you can use light, you can use different symbols that you think of as protective, you can use different plants. One of the techniques that I was taught is using like tree roots and branches, or even if you're going somewhere that is a little bit more intense, then you might create something that's more like a shield and use brambles and thorns, that kind of thing. I'll get into shielding a little bit more later, like I said. You can also use protective oils and herbs. And what you do with that is you can put some of that oil in your hands and put it on the outside of your aura, just kind of by moving your hands all around and up and down your aura. There's also the bubble of light technique, which you may have heard about. It's been talked about a lot. It's pretty effective for very basic barrier protection. I would not necessarily use that as a shield or rely on that if you needed heavier protection. I wouldn't personally. But what you do with the bubble of light is you're essentially visualizing and intending that divine light comes down through your body and all throughout your auric field. So you're basically walking around in a bubble of light. A lot of people use white light, but you can use whatever color you want, whatever one makes sense to you, because that's where all magic happens, really, is it happens up here. So whatever makes sense to you and feels good to you intuitively, that's what I would do. Another thing that you can do is wear some protective crystals, wear protective symbols on your jewelry. Like, for instance, the metal silver is naturally very protective, so you can wear that. Crystals like smoky quartz, like onyx, black tourmaline, also obsidian. Those are very protective crystals, and they work very well for... you can wear bracelets like this, you can wear necklaces, you can carry them in your pocket, whatever the case may be, whatever works for you. But I usually make sure that I have protective crystals with me when I leave, because it just, every little bit helps. So the last thing that you can do for basic aura protection is to smoke cleanse your body, your aura, with protective herbs or incense. For this, there's all different kinds of things that you could use. You could use dragon's blood, you could use myrrh, you could use frankincense. If you're working with more solar energy, then frankincense is very good to use. If you work more with lunar energy, then I recommend myrrh, and dragon's blood is just like kind of super powerful all around, so that's very good to use. Also, mugwort is fantastic for that. So be very careful when you burn stuff, of course, and you can use some of that smoke to cleanse your aura and then kind of smoke bathe and create a barrier using your intention and visualization with your aura and create that boundary around you. All right, so moving on to the next thing, I'm gonna get a drink real quick. All right, well, this video is already 20 minutes long or so, at least that's what my timer thing says, so I could talk about energy like forever. I'm not going to rush this video, but I'm going to tell you the next couple things I'm going to be talking about. The next one I'm going to be talking about is what I do not see talked about enough in energy protection, which is psychic protection. So much of what we pick up mentally and psychically affects our energy. And if all of us were doing a little bit of psychic protection, then it would make the world a better place. Like I'm convinced, okay? So psychic protection is basically protecting your mental and psychic space from outside interference. So we talked about how to do that with the aura. Now I'm talking about how to do that with your psychic senses, because psychic senses can extend beyond you, right? And pick up on other energies. That's intuition, that's, psychic hits, basically. So because that happens already and you're perceiving things outside of you, and that can happen in varying degrees in different ways with different people, but because that's already happening, then there's sort of a gateway there for things to affect you in a psychic way, or for even more extreme than that, for a psychic attack to happen. I need to make a whole other video on what psychic attack is and how it works and all that kind of stuff. But basic psychic defense here. First of all, we're being bombarded every single day by the news, by social media content, and by also picking up on other people's fear and their struggling. We're picking that up psychically, whether it's consciously psychic or subconscious. We're all tapped into the collective unconscious. And so we're all picking that up in some way or another. All right. That being the case, there's also something that we can be vulnerable to when we're picking that kind of stuff up. And when we're picking that kind of stuff up, it can cause psychic imbalance. We can be way more vulnerable to psychic imbalance. So psychic imbalance looks like, and again, not a mental health professional either, all right? So psychic imbalance looks like overthinking, it looks like worrying, it looks like not sleeping enough or sleeping too much, having vivid dreams to the point of like vivid nightmares. It can be sleep paralysis, it can be panic, it can also be paranoia, definitely, and it can be also no dreams at all and just not feeling connected to anything at all and not picking up on anything intuitively around you and feeling sort of stuck in that way. So, your mileage may vary. So let's see what else. If you feel like you're going through that, or if you want to protect yourself from that, which I think is a good idea, especially given the current times that we live in, the techniques you're going to use for psychic protection are very similar to the auric barrier protection techniques that I spoke about before. And so you're just doing an additional step for your third eye. So when you do the bubble of light, for instance, for your aura, you would also do like a bubble of light for your third eye too. Okay. And you're intending that whatever it is protecting your psychic senses, and it is keeping your psychic senses in your energy and basically unavailable for other things to interfere with, okay? All right, Another thing that you can do for your third eye and psychic protection, there are good crystals for psychic protection. The best one, in my opinion, is amethyst. You really cannot go wrong with amethyst for psychic protection, but any of the aforementioned crystals before, like the smoky quartz and the black tourmaline, very good for this also. In addition to fluorite. Fluorite is also really good for clarity. So if you feel like there's kind of like a lot of noise and you're picking up on a lot of stuff that you may not want to pick up on, maybe some intrusive thoughts, things like that, intrusive psychic visions, stuff like that you really just don't want to deal with on such a consistent basis, then fluorite is really good for kind of clearing that out and stabilizing that psychic energy. All right, so before I get into the more heavy hitting energetic protection, I want to let you know that when you're doing auric protection and psychic protection, the two things I just talked about, then there's some side effects that you're going to notice. Not only is it going to be some beneficial things, but it's also going to be some other stuff that I kind of feel like deserves a warning. So the good news is that you're going to be a lot less susceptible to external bullshit, okay? Including other people's bullshit. And you're going to be less susceptible to other people manipulating you, being toxic with you, trying to get reactions from you, feed on your energy, that kind of thing. And so my warning basically is, if you're doing this and you do it for long enough and you have people around you who are bad for you, hidden enemies, so to speak, then you're going to become aware of who they are, because they're going to reveal themselves when they don't have the same kind of hold on your energy, access to your energy, that they do, without you having your boundaries up and your protection up. So I still recommend that you do it, because who wants that around anyways? And if you don't know if you have them, then keep doing your protection. If they're there, they'll reveal themselves. It's really not something to worry about or to overthink about. It's just something that may happen. But another thing is that there's good things with it. So you're going to feel more calm. You're going to feel more stable. You're going to feel more grounded. It's going to be easier for you to meditate. It's going to be easier for you to do things like spiritually, with divination, with energy work. It's going to be easier for you to connect with different deities, spirits, source, whatever your practice may or may not be. That kind of thing is just going to come a little bit easier once your energy is a little bit more purely yours, basically. All right. So, overall, I'd highly recommend it. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about, so we're getting more into stronger energetic protection, which is what everyone wants to jump to when we talk about energetic protection. I find that a lot of people who talk about energetic protection jump straight to shielding, jump straight to mirroring, and skip the psychic protection and skip the basic aura protection in between, which I feel like those two things should take care of a lot of issues, and shielding and mirroring have other consequences to them that are not talked about, like hardly ever. So I'm going to get into that now. And I'm not saying don't shield and don't mirror it, but I am saying use your discernment. I'm saying that it's not always necessary to shield or use mirrors in order to protect your energy. I'd say that's getting closer to, the big guns, which we're not talking about the big guns in this video. We're talking about, levels 1, 2, and 3. So this is level 3. I'll make, if you're interested in the big guns, I can make a different video on that. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so let's talk about the shielding and the mirroring. Like I said, these are more advanced energetic techniques than the other ones. So shielding basically is like the auric barrier, but kicked up a couple of notches. So you're still using visualization, you're still using intention. You can use things like frequency music. You can connect to different deities, spirits, ancestors to help you form a shield. And a shield is exactly what it sounds like. It is a stronger barrier between you and the external. So a lot of shields really can look exactly like a shield, but they cover the whole aura, basically. And shields can be made out of different things, you know. You can intend that they are like iron or metal, or like I said before, that they are made out of something natural like stone, crystals, thorns, that kind of thing. The reason I say thorns is more like if you... Thorns is like if you want something that's defensive and offensive at the same time, you know, use your discernment on that. If you feel like you need something that's a little offensive, not offensive, then, you know, that's up to you. You know, I don't know what kind of situation that you may be in. So use your discernment and protect yourself how you feel like you should protect yourself. So that's pretty much what a shield is. It is thicker, it is stronger than an auric barrier, and it covers the aura, and it's a lot thicker as well. Shields are intended to take hits, right? They're intended to be rigid and inflexible and to basically be a tank. You know, I don't know if y'all play video games, but if you've ever played a character that's a tank, they can take a lot of damage. That's pretty much an example of what it's like having a shield on your aura, especially like a really well maintained one and one that was very intentionally formed. Now, this is pretty much invaluable, all right? It is good to shield sometimes because you never know when you're going to need something like that. So if that's not something that you have practiced doing before, I would recommend that you start practicing it to see, you know, how you feel and what you're comfortable with. And if you have questions, let me know below. But it's a good thing to get comfortable with, because you might pull up into, you know, I don't know, like a shady gas station one day and you have to get gas because you're almost out of gas, but you don't necessarily feel energetically safe there, physically safe there. The least you can do is pop your shield up on your aura, get in and get out. I have done that before. So that's the first example that I thought of. But in addition to, you know, needing to put up a shield, like if you feel like you're being energetically, like in an energetically unsafe space, you may choose to put up a shield if you work with the public, for instance. Like if you go in and you work in the service industry and you have to deal with people that have attitudes all day long, then it might be a good idea to start shielding. It might be a good idea if you have to run an errand and every time you run that errand, you come back home, you're in a bad mood. I highly recommend a shield because something is happening energetically in that space. Different public places have different energies. I have been to metaphysical shops, crystal shops that were not energetically safe, you know, like the energy was good in some parts and then just kind of weird or not so good in other parts. So you have to use your discernment. I kind of lean towards shielding intuitively, but if you're someone who is highly affected every time you go out into public to the point where you never want to leave your house kind of thing, then I recommend shielding when you go out into public, taking your shields down when you get back home. That's the part about shielding that I don't feel like is talked about, is once you're in an energetically safe space again, then intend that your shields come down and then you just have that natural auric protective boundary up. That's, you know, that one's a little bit more breathable than a shield. You know, a shield, if it's not done, you know, where you're taking it up and putting it back down and it's just left up all the time, then it kind of creates a hot boxing effect because, we produce negative energy too. We have toxic thoughts and emotions and stuff like that. And that energy cannot breathe if there is a strong shield up, hot boxing our energy. That pretty much means that we're going to get hit with our own stuff. All right. So I recommend taking the shield down and doing some cleansing and some grounding, that kind of stuff to rebalance your energy. So that's pretty much what shielding is and how it works. The next thing I want to talk about is mirroring. Now, mirroring or using a mirroring shielding technique specifically is what I'm talking about. So that is when your shield is essentially a mirror or mirrors. And the whole intention of that is that the energy that comes at you is reflected back to the source, whatever the source may be. Now, I'll tell you pretty straightforward that I've heard, some ethical concerns with mirroring, because if you're reflecting energy back to the source, if you remember the energy throwing technique from my Reiki class, if you're hurling energy just directly back to somebody, then it can hit them in their weak spot and it can cause harm, that's something that can happen. All right. However, I am an advocate of personal accountability, right? And so if somebody is being irresponsible with their energy, if they're very aggressive towards other people, and if they're, throwing that kind of stuff out, then I'm kind of inclined to say, like, that's not our responsibility, right? That is their responsibility. They're the ones that are doing that, right? And on the flip side, if we're the ones doing that, because we all have our moments, and I'm not trying to say that, the ones who are watching this video do no wrong, because we all do, all right? So, myself included. So, on the flip side, be aware that people do put mirrors on their aura, and sometimes we can get hit with our own stuff. And that's just the way that it is. That's why it's important to have your own barrier, and then have your own spiritual energetic maintenance routine, because that'll get you familiar with what your energy is doing, so you can kind of become more self-aware of that, because I'm sure, most of us don't want to be out there doing that to other people for the most part. So, that's pretty much what mirroring is. And so if that is something that you want to practice, it's pretty much the same technique as shielding, except with mirrors. And another caveat to the mirroring is, if you use the mirroring technique, it can be very polarizing when it comes to interacting with others, whether, they're directing some kind of energy or emotion at you or not, okay? So, because people pick things up on a subconscious level. So people will either be super attracted to you because they see themselves in you, or it'll be the opposite, where they can get triggered by you because they see the flaws in themselves, so it's sort of the same thing, but reversed. So people can treat you differently depending on where they're at spiritually and emotionally and all that kind of stuff if you're using the mirroring technique. And honestly, being an energetic practitioner myself, the mirroring technique isn't like, it's not something that I would use on a daily basis. I would really just use that if somebody is like consistently becoming a nuisance with you, or when it comes to your energy, and a shield is not, either it's just not doing it, or you feel like maybe you feel like your shield shouldn't have to take any more hits and you don't want to do more maintenance on it than you should because this person can't behave themselves, or the situation can't behave itself, or whatever it is, okay? Then that's when I would recommend trying the mirrors and then see how that goes. It's your energy. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do, what your situation is. Use your discernment. Let me see if I have anything else to talk to you guys about today. Actually, that would be all. Okay, so that is it for today. That was my energetic protection mini class. If you enjoyed this video, do leave me a like or a comment. If you have questions, do let me know. I appreciate all of you being here, and I look forward to doing more videos like this one soon. So I will see you all next time. Bye bye.